You're 60 or older and you want to stay strong and mobile for the next 20 or 30 years, but here's what nobody tells you. While Western fitness gurus are selling you complicated gym routines and expensive equipment, there's a group of people on the other side of the world who are quietly outliving almost everyone else on the planet with nothing more than 6 simple movements they do every single day. I'm talking about Korean elders who maintain independence, flexibility, and mental sharpness well into their 80s and 90s. And the secret isn't genetics or luck. It's a handful of practices so simple you can start them this afternoon in your living room. Here's what makes this different from everything you've tried before. These aren't exercises in the way you think of them. They're movements woven into daily life, designed to preserve the exact physical abilities that Western medicine watches disappear after 60 and calls it normal aging. Loss of balance, stiff hips, weak grip, foggy thinking, these aren't inevitable. Korean elders prove it every day. And before you assume this is about hours of practice or some mystical Eastern discipline, I need to stop you right there. The 6th movement on this list takes 90 seconds, requires 0 equipment, and according to observational data from longevity researchers studying East Asian populations, it may do more for your brain and balance than anything else you'll hear today. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me give you the full picture, because the 2nd movement is going to surprise you. It's something you probably already do, but you're doing it wrong, and that small mistake is costing you years of hip mobility. And the 1st movement, the one Korean elders start with every single morning before they even brush their teeth, well, that's the one that sets the tone for everything else. It's the foundation. Miss that, and the other 5 lose half their power. Now, I want to hear from you before we go further. Drop a comment right now and tell me 2 things. How old are you, and can you currently sit down on the floor and stand back up without using your hands? Just yes or no. This isn't a test. It's a baseline, because by the end of this, you're going to understand why that simple movement predicts how long you'll stay independent better than almost any medical test. Let's start with the most important movement, the one that comes first thing in the morning, even before coffee, even before breakfast. Korean elders call this the morning wake-up for the spine, and in the simplest terms, it's a series of gentle spinal waves done either sitting on the edge of the bed or standing next to it. You're not stretching. You're not exercising. You're reminding every single vertebra in your back that it's time to move as an integrated chain, not as a stack of stiff blocks. Here's why this matters more after 60 than it did when you were 40. Your spinal discs lose hydration overnight. You literally shrink by about half an inch while you sleep as fluid leaks out of those discs. When you jump straight out of bed and start your day, you're moving on a spine that's dehydrated and compressed, which sets you up for stiffness, pain, and that feeling of being locked up that so many people your age just accept as normal. Korean elders don't accept it. They rehydrate the spine first, and the science backs this up. Studies on spinal biomechanics show that gentle, repeated flexion and extension in the morning increases fluid exchange in the discs, essentially plumping them back up and restoring the shock-absorbing cushion between your bones. Let me tell you about Robert, 72, a retired electrician from Ohio who spent 40 years bending over job sites and wiring panels. By the time he came to me, he couldn't tie his shoes without sitting down, and his lower back felt like a rust-covered hinge every morning. He'd tried everything: chiropractors, muscle relaxers, those inversion tables you see on late-night TV. Nothing stuck. I taught him this one movement, and I told him to do it every single morning before his feet hit the floor. 3 weeks later, he sent me a video of himself tying his shoes standing up, and he said the morning stiffness that had been his companion for a decade was just gone. Here's exactly how you do it. Sit on the edge of your bed with your feet flat on the floor, hip-width apart. Place your hands on your thighs. Now slowly round your back, pulling your belly button toward your spine and dropping your chin toward your chest. Feel your tailbone tuck under. That's spinal flexion. Hold that for 2 seconds, then reverse it. Lift your chest, arch your lower back gently, and look up slightly. That's spinal extension. You're making a wave with your spine, not a hinge with your hips. Go back and forth 10 times, smooth and controlled. breathing in as you extend and out as you flex. The whole thing takes maybe 90 seconds. If you can't sit on the edge of the bed without support, do this standing next to the bed with one hand resting on the mattress for balance. The key is the movement of the spine itself, not how low you go or how much you arch. You're lubricating joints, not proving flexibility. And here's the detail that changes everything. Korean elders do this before they stand up, which means they're preparing the spine for load before they put weight on it. You're not stretching a cold muscle. You're waking up the entire posterior chain, from your neck to your tailbone, in the safest possible position. Now, what if you have a history of disc issues or nerve pain down your leg? Start with even smaller movements. Go only as far as feels smooth and controlled. If flexion hurts, do more extension. If extension hurts, do more flexion. Your body will tell you what it needs. And if both directions hurt, that's a signal to check in with a physical therapist or a doctor before you continue, because pain is information, not something to push through. This movement is the foundation for everything else that follows, because a mobile spine is the center of a mobile body. Your hips can't move well if your lumbar spine is locked. Your shoulders can't move well if your thoracic spine is frozen. Korean elders understand this instinctively. They start the day by reminding the spine how to move, and that single practice ripples out into better posture, less pain, and more freedom in every other movement you'll do for the rest of the day. Here's the kicker. You don't do this once and forget about it. This is a daily practice, and daily means every single day, not when you remember or when you feel stiff. Korean elders don't skip it, because they know the body forgets what you don't remind it to do. Miss a week and you'll feel the difference. Stick with it for a month and you'll wonder how you ever started your day any other way. Now let's move to the second movement. And this is the one I mentioned earlier, the one you're probably already doing, but doing wrong. It's the deep squat, and in Korea, it's not an exercise. It's a resting position. Elders squat down to garden, to sort vegetables, to chat with neighbors, and they stay there for minutes or even hours at a time. In the West, we sit in chairs. In Korea, they sit in a squat, and that one difference explains why Korean elders maintain hip and ankle mobility that most Americans lose by age 50. Here's the truth that's hard to hear. If you can't squat down with your heels on the ground and your back relatively upright, you've already lost a massive chunk of functional mobility, and every year that passes makes it harder to get back. Your hip capsule tightens, your ankle dorsiflexion disappears. Your Achilles tendon shortens, and before you know it, you can't get down to play with grandkids. You can't work in the garden, and you definitely can't get up off the floor without help. That's not aging. That's disuse, and Korean elders prove it by squatting every single day well into their 80s. Research on movement patterns in populations with high rates of longevity shows that the ability to sit on the floor and rise without assistance is one of the strongest predictors of all-cause mortality in older adults. It's not just about strength. It's about mobility, balance, and neuromuscular control, all of which are preserved by movements like the deep squat. When you squat, you're loading the hips, knees, and ankles through their full range of motion under control, which keeps the joints healthy, the tendons strong, and the proprioceptive system sharp. Let me tell you about Linda, 67, a retired teacher from Arizona who loved hiking but had given it up because her knees hurt and her hips felt unstable on uneven ground. She couldn't squat past parallel without her heels lifting off the ground, and forget about staying down there. I taught her a progression, and within 8 weeks she was back on the trails. And, more importantly, she could sit down on the floor to play board games with her grandkids without needing a chair or someone to pull her up. Here's the protocol. And this is important because most people over 60 can't just drop into a full squat safely. You're going to build it in stages. Start with a supported squat. Stand facing a sturdy countertop or the back of a heavy chair. Hold on with both hands. Place your feet slightly wider than hip width, toes turned out about 15 degrees. Now, slowly lower yourself down as far as you can go while keeping your heels on the ground and your chest lifted. Don't worry about how deep you get. Worry about control and position. Hold the bottom for 5 seconds. Then pull yourself back up using your arms as much as you need to. Do that 3 times. Once in the morning, once in the afternoon, once in the evening. Every few days, try to go a little deeper or hold the bottom a little longer. Your body will adapt, but only if you're consistent. After a few weeks, reduce how much you pull with your arms. Let your legs do more of the work. Eventually, you'll find you can lower yourself into a full squat with just fingertip support, and from there, it's a small step to doing it with no hands at all. Now, what if your ankles are too stiff to keep your heels down? Put a small weight plate or a rolled-up towel under your heels to elevate them slightly. That reduces the demand on ankle dorsiflexion and lets you work on hip and knee mobility first. As your hips open up, gradually reduce the heel lift until your heels are flat. And if your knees hurt in the bottom position, don't force it. Stay higher, work on control, and check in with a professional to make sure there's no structural issue that needs attention. Here's the part most people miss. The squat isn't just about getting down. It's about staying down. Korean elders rest in the squat. They breathe in it. They relax in it. That's where the magic happens, because when you stay in the bottom position, your body starts to adapt. The hip capsule loosens, the ankles open up, and your nervous system learns that this position is safe. Start with 5 seconds, then 10, then 20. Work up to a minute if you can. You're not exercising. You're restoring a position your body was designed to own. And here's why this matters beyond just mobility. The squat is a longevity test. If you can't get down and up off the floor without using your hands, your risk of early mortality goes up significantly. It's not because squatting is magic. It's because the inability to squat tells us you've lost strength, balance, and mobility in the exact systems that keep you independent. Korean elders know this, and they maintain the squat not because someone told them it was good for them, but because their culture never took it away in the first place. Now, let's talk about the third movement. And this one is going to feel subtle, but don't let that fool you. It's called ankle pumping. And Korean elders do it throughout the day, especially when they're sitting for any length of time. You're simply flexing and pointing your feet over and over, and the goal is to keep blood moving through your lower legs and prevent the stiffness and swelling that creeps in when circulation slows down. Here's what happens after 60 that makes this so important. Your veins lose elasticity, your calf muscle pump gets weaker, and fluid starts pooling in your ankles and feet, especially if you sit a lot. This isn't just uncomfortable. It's a warning sign. Poor circulation in the lower legs is linked to increased risk of blood clots, varicose veins, and even cognitive decline, because the same sluggish circulation that affects your legs also affects your brain. Korean elders keep their ankles moving all day long, and it's one of the simplest ways to keep your cardiovascular system healthy without breaking a sweat. Studies on venous return in older adults show that active ankle movement significantly improves blood flow from the lower extremities back to the heart, reducing the risk of deep vein thrombosis and chronic venous insufficiency. The calf muscle acts as a secondary heart, pumping blood upward with every contraction, but only if you actually move it. Sitting still for hours at a time turns that pump off, and the consequences build up slowly over years until you're dealing with swollen ankles, restless legs, and fatigue that you can't explain. Let me tell you about George, 71, a retired accountant who spent his career behind a desk and his retirement in front of the TV. He came to me complaining of heavy legs, swollen ankles by the end of the day, and a creeping sense of fatigue that made even short walks feel exhausting. His circulation was sluggish and his calves had lost muscle tone from years of disuse. I gave him one instruction: pump your ankles for 2 minutes every hour you're sitting. That's it. Within 10 days, the swelling was gone. Within 3 weeks, he had energy he hadn't felt in years. Here's exactly how you do it, and you can do this sitting in a chair, lying in bed, or even standing if you want a little more challenge. Sit with your feet flat on the floor. Lift your toes and forefoot off the ground, keeping your heels down. That's dorsiflexion. Hold for 1 second. Now reverse it. Press through the ball of your foot and lift your heels off the ground, like you're standing on your tiptoes. That's plantar flexion. Hold for 1 second. Go back and forth, smooth and controlled, for 2 minutes. You should feel your calf muscles working. That's the pump activating. Do this every hour if you're sitting for long periods. Do it in the morning when you first wake up. Do it at night before bed. Korean elders do it without thinking because it's woven into their daily rhythm. They pump their ankles while watching TV, while talking on the phone, while waiting for water to boil. It's not exercise. It's maintenance, and maintenance is what keeps you healthy when the big stuff isn't happening. If you have swelling or varicose veins, this movement is even more important, but start gently. Don't force the range of motion. Just move through whatever range feels comfortable and let your body adapt over time. And if you notice sharp pain, cramping, or any sign of a blood clot, stop and get medical attention immediately. Ankle pumping is preventive, not therapeutic for active clots. Here's the detail that amplifies the effect. Combine ankle pumping with deep breathing. Inhale as you dorsiflex. Exhale as you plantar flex. This coordinates your respiratory pump with your calf pump, and together they move even more blood back towards your heart. Korean elders don't separate movement from breath. They see them as one integrated system, and that's why their circulation stays strong and their energy stays high even as the years add up. Now we move to the fourth movement, and this one targets something most people don't even think about until it's too late. It's grip strengthening, and Korean elders practice it by carrying things the old-fashioned way with their hands, not with carts or bags with padded straps. They carry water buckets, gardening tools, grocery bags, and firewood, and that constant, varied grip work keeps their hands strong and their forearms functional. Here's the reality you need to understand. Grip strength is one of the most powerful predictors of overall health and longevity in older adults. It's not just about opening jars or carrying suitcases. Weak grip is associated with increased risk of cardiovascular disease, cognitive decline, disability, and early death. Why? Because grip strength reflects total body muscle mass, neuromuscular efficiency, and systemic health. When your grip is strong, it's a signal that everything else is working. When your grip is weak, it's a warning that your body is losing muscle, coordination, and resilience faster than it should. Multiple large-scale studies, including analyses involving hundreds of thousands of participants across different countries, have shown that grip strength is a stronger predictor of all-cause mortality than blood pressure. Let that sink in. The strength of your hand tells us more about how long you're going to live than one of the most commonly measured vital signs. Korean elders maintain their grip because they use their hands every single day for real work, and that daily challenge keeps the muscles, tendons, and nerves in peak condition. Let me tell you about Patricia, 69. A former nurse who loved cooking but had started avoiding it because her hands hurt and she couldn't grip knives, pots, or jars without pain. She'd been diagnosed with mild arthritis, and her doctor told her to rest her hands and take anti-inflammatories. I told her the opposite. I told her to strengthen her grip, carefully and progressively, and to use her hands more, not less. Within 6 weeks, her pain was down by half. Her grip strength had increased measurably, and she was back in the kitchen making meals for her family. Here's the protocol, and it's simpler than you think. You need 3 types of grip work: crushing grip, pinch grip, and support grip. For crushing grip, get a hand gripper or simply squeeze a tennis ball or a rolled-up towel. Squeeze as hard as you can for 5 seconds, then release. Do 10 reps on each hand. For pinch grip, pick up small objects like coins, beans, or marbles using just your thumb and fingertips. Transfer them from one container to another for 2 minutes. For support grip, carry something heavy in each hand, like a grocery bag or a dumbbell, and walk for 30 to 60 seconds. The weight should be challenging but not so heavy that you have to put it down before the time is up. Do all 3 types of grip work 3 times a week. Korean elders don't schedule it. They just live in a way that naturally includes all 3 types throughout the day. But since most of us don't carry water from a well or chop vegetables for an hour, we have to be intentional. And here's the critical detail. Vary the angles and the objects. Don't just squeeze the same gripper in the same position every time. Use thick grips, thin grips, smooth objects, textured objects. Your hand has 19 bones and 29 joints. You want to challenge all of them. If you have arthritis or joint pain, start lighter and focus on control, not maximum force. Pain during grip work is a signal to back off, but soreness afterward is normal, especially in the beginning. And if you notice swelling, redness, or heat in the joints, that's inflammation, and you need to check in with a doctor to make sure you're not doing more harm than good. Grip work should make your hands feel more capable, not more painful. Here's the long-term benefit that most people never connect. Strong grip means strong forearms, and strong forearms protect your elbows, wrists, and shoulders from injury. The muscles of the forearm stabilize every upper body movement you do, from lifting groceries to reaching overhead. When those muscles are weak, other joints compensate, and that's when you start getting tendinitis, bursitis, and chronic pain that seems to come out of nowhere. Korean elders rarely deal with those issues because their hands and forearms stay strong from daily use. Now let's talk about the fifth movement. And this is where things get really interesting, because we're shifting from the physical to the neurological. This movement is called single leg standing, and Korean elders practice it while waiting in line, brushing their teeth, or standing at the stove. You're simply standing on one leg, and the goal is to maintain balance for 30 to 60 seconds without wobbling, grabbing onto something, or putting your other foot down. Here's why this is non-negotiable after 60. Your balance system deteriorates faster than almost any other system in your body, and the consequences are catastrophic. Falls are the leading cause of injury-related death in older adults, and even if a fall doesn't kill you, it often marks the beginning of a decline that ends with loss of independence, nursing homes, and a dramatic reduction in quality of life. Korean elders maintain their balance through daily practice, and single-leg standing is the simplest, most effective way to train the three systems that keep you upright: your vestibular system, your visual system, and your proprioceptive system. Research on balance training in older adults shows that regular practice of single-leg standing significantly reduces fall risk, improves gait stability, and enhances overall functional mobility. But here's the part that blows most people's minds. Single-leg standing also activates your brain. The act of balancing requires intense coordination between your cerebellum, your motor cortex, and your sensory processing centers. You're not just training your body, you're training your brain to integrate complex information in real time, and that kind of neurological work protects against cognitive decline just as much as it protects against physical falls. Let me tell you about Daniel, 74, a retired engineer who had fallen twice in 6 months, both times while getting out of the shower. He wasn't injured badly, but he was terrified, and his confidence was shattered. He'd stopped going for walks, stopped driving at night, and started using a cane even though he didn't really need one. His balance system had atrophied from disuse, and his brain had learned to expect instability. I gave him one challenge. Stand on one leg for 30 seconds every time you brush your teeth. That's twice a day, every day, no excuses. After 4 weeks, he could hold it for a full minute on each leg without wobbling. After 8 weeks, he ditched the cane and was back to his daily walks. More importantly, his fear was gone. Here's exactly how you do it, and safety comes first. Start next to a countertop or a sturdy piece of furniture that you can grab if you lose your balance. Stand tall with your feet together. Shift your weight onto your right leg and lift your left foot just an inch or two off the ground. Don't swing your leg out to the side or bend your knee dramatically. Just lift it slightly and hold. Keep your eyes open and focus on a fixed point in front of you. Count to 30 in your head. If you wobble and need to touch the counter, that's fine. Note how long you lasted. Put your foot down and try again. Then switch legs and repeat. Do this twice a day, every day. As you get better, reduce how much you rely on the counter. Go from gripping it to just touching it with your fingertips. Then take your hand away entirely, but keep it close. Eventually, you'll be able to stand in the middle of the room with nothing to hold on to. Once you can do 30 seconds easily with your eyes open, make it harder. Close your eyes. That removes your visual system from the equation and forces your vestibular and proprioceptive systems to do all the work. Even the best balance athletes struggle with this at first, so don't be discouraged if you can only hold it for 5 or 10 seconds with your eyes closed. That's your baseline. Work up from there. Here's the modification if you have significant balance issues or a history of falls. Start with a wider stance. Instead of lifting your foot completely off the ground, just shift your weight onto one leg and lightly tap the toe of the other foot on the ground for support. You're still training the balance system, but with a safety net. As your confidence and ability improve, reduce the amount of support until you're fully on one leg. And if you have vertigo, Meniere's disease, or any vestibular disorder, work with a physical therapist to make sure you're progressing safely. Here's the part that changes the game. Once you own single leg standing, you can make it dynamic. Brush your teeth standing on one leg. Stir a pot on the stove standing on one leg. Wait in line at the grocery store standing on one leg. Korean elders don't think of this as exercise. It's just how they move through life, and that constant low-level challenge keeps their balance system sharp and their fall risk low. You're not adding hours to your day. You're adding intention to moments you're already spending standing still. Now we come to the sixth and final movement, and this is the one I told you about at the very beginning. It takes 90 seconds, requires zero equipment, and may do more for your brain and balance than anything else you'll do today. It's called rhythmic neck rotation with breath coordination, and Korean elders do it in the evening to release tension, improve circulation to the brain, and prepare the body for deep, restorative sleep. Here's the mechanism. And this is where Western medicine is finally catching up to what traditional practices have known for centuries. Your neck contains the vertebral arteries, which supply about 20% of the blood flow to your brain. When your neck is tight, forward, or locked in one position for hours at a time, those arteries get compressed, blood flow decreases, and your brain doesn't get the oxygen and nutrients it needs to function optimally. Over time, that chronic reduction in blood flow is linked to cognitive decline, poor sleep, headaches, and even dizziness. Korean elders keep their necks mobile, and the result is better brain health, better balance, and better sleep. Studies on cervical spine mobility and cerebral blood flow show that gentle, controlled neck movements can increase blood flow to the brain by improving the diameter and flexibility of the vertebral arteries. This isn't about cracking your neck or doing aggressive stretches. It's about smooth, rhythmic rotation that gently mobilizes the joints and soft tissues while coordinating with your breath to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. That's the rest and digest system, the one that tells your body it's safe to relax, heal, and recover. Let me tell you about Carol, 66, a retired librarian who had suffered from tension headaches and poor sleep for over a decade. She'd tried everything: medications, sleep studies, acupuncture, massage. Nothing provided lasting relief. Her neck was locked forward from years of reading and computer work, and her upper traps were like steel cables. I taught her this one movement, and I told her to do it every night before bed. Within 1 week, her headaches were less frequent. Within 1 month, they were gone. She also reported sleeping more deeply and waking up feeling more rested than she had in years. Here's the exact protocol. Sit in a chair with your back supported and your feet flat on the floor. Sit tall, lengthen your spine, and relax your shoulders down away from your ears. Now slowly turn your head to the right, as if you're looking over your shoulder. Go only as far as feels smooth and comfortable. Don't force it. As you turn, take a slow, deep breath in through your nose. Hold the end position for 1 second, then slowly return your head to center as you exhale through your mouth. Pause for 1 second in the center. Now turn your head to the left, inhaling as you turn. Hold for 1 second. Return to center as you exhale. That's 1 full cycle. Do 10 cycles, which takes about 90 seconds. The key is smooth, controlled movement paired with deep, intentional breathing. You're not stretching. You're mobilizing and coordinating. Your breath sets the rhythm, and your neck follows. If you hear clicking or popping, that's usually just gas bubbles releasing from the joints, and it's harmless as long as there's no pain. But if you feel sharp pain, numbness, tingling, or dizziness, stop immediately and consult a healthcare provider before continuing. Here's the modification if you have neck pain or a history of cervical spine issues. Reduce the range of motion. Instead of trying to look over your shoulder, just turn your head 30 or 40 degrees to each side. The benefit comes from the movement and the breath, not from how far you rotate. And if rotating feels unstable or scary, start with gentle neck tilts instead. Tilt your head toward your right shoulder as you inhale, return to center as you exhale. Then tilt to the left. Same rhythm, same breath coordination, less rotation. Here's what makes this movement so powerful for sleep. The combination of neck mobilization and deep breathing activates the vagus nerve, the main nerve of the parasympathetic nervous system. When the vagus nerve is activated, your heart rate slows, your blood pressure drops, your digestion improves, and your brain shifts into a state that's conducive to rest and recovery. Korean elders do this in the evening because it's a signal to the body that the work of the day is done, and it's time to shift gears. You're not just moving your neck, you're shifting your entire nervous system. And here's the bonus that nobody talks about. Improved neck mobility means better vestibular function, and better vestibular function means better balance. The sensors in your neck communicate constantly with the balance centers in your inner ear and your brain. When your neck is tight and immobile, those signals get distorted, and your balance suffers. Free up your neck, and suddenly your body knows where it is in space with much more accuracy. This is why Korean elders who practice this movement daily have such remarkable balance even in their 80s and 90s. Now let's step back and look at what you've just learned, because these 6 movements aren't random. They're a system, and when you put them together, they create a foundation for healthy aging that addresses mobility, strength, circulation, balance, and neurological health all at once. The morning spinal wave prepares your body for movement. The deep squat maintains hip and ankle mobility and tests your functional independence. The ankle pumping keeps your circulation strong and your energy high. The grip strengthening preserves muscle mass and predicts longevity. The single leg standing protects you from falls and sharpens your brain. And the rhythmic neck rotation improves blood flow to your brain, activates your rest and digest system, and sets you up for deep, restorative sleep. Korean elders don't do these movements because a doctor told them to or because they read about them in a study. They do them because these practices are woven into their culture, passed down through generations, and proven by the simple fact that they work. They work because they address the exact systems that Western culture allows to deteriorate and then calls it normal aging. It's not normal. It's a choice, and you can make a different choice starting today. Here's the protocol for integrating all 6 movements into your daily life. And this is important because consistency beats intensity every single time. You don't need to do all 6 movements in one session. In fact, Korean elders don't. They spread them throughout the day, and that's what makes them sustainable. Morning. Do the spinal wave as soon as you wake up before you even get out of bed. That's 90 seconds. Mid-morning. Practice your squat progression 3 times, holding the bottom for 5 to 10 seconds. That's 2 minutes. Throughout the day, pump your ankles every hour if you're sitting for long periods. That's 2 minutes per hour. Afternoon. Work on your grip strength 3 times a week. That's 5 to 10 minutes on those days. Evening. Practice single leg standing while you brush your teeth, once in the morning and once at night. That's 1 minute total per day. Before bed. Do the rhythmic neck rotation with breath coordination. That's 90 seconds. Add it all up, and you're looking at maybe 10 to 15 minutes spread across the entire day, most of it woven into activities you're already doing. This isn't a gym routine. It's a lifestyle. And that's why it works long-term. You're not adding hours to your schedule. You're adding intention to moments that were previously wasted. Now, what if you're starting from a place where some of these movements feel impossible? Maybe you can't squat at all. Maybe you can't stand on one leg for even 5 seconds. Maybe your grip is so weak you struggle to open a water bottle. That's okay. Start where you are, not where you think you should be. Use the modifications I've given you. Hold on to support. Reduce the range of motion. Shorten the time. Progress slowly and celebrate small wins. Korean elders didn't build their movement practice overnight, and neither will you. But if you show up every day and do a little bit, your body will adapt, and in 6 months you'll look back and be amazed at how far you've come. Here's the mindset shift that makes all the difference. Stop thinking of movement as exercise, something you do for 30 minutes and then check off your list. Start thinking of movement as a language your body speaks, and the more fluently you speak it, the better your body functions. Korean elders speak this language every single day, in small moments, without drama or fanfare. They squat to rest. They pump their ankles while they chat. They stand on one leg while they wait. They rotate their necks before they sleep. It's not effort, it's life. And when movement becomes life, you stop aging the way Western culture ages, and you start aging the way humans were designed to age. Strong, mobile, sharp, and independent. Let me give you one more reason to take this seriously, and this goes beyond personal health. The ability to maintain your independence as you age isn't just about you. It's about the people who love you. Every year you stay strong, mobile, and capable is a year your family doesn't have to make impossible decisions about nursing homes, caregivers, and end-of-life planning. It's a year you get to spend on your terms, doing the things you love, with the people you care about. Korean elders understand this deeply. They see maintaining their movement capacity as a responsibility, not just to themselves, but to their families and their communities. When you commit to these 6 movements, you're not just investing in your body. You're investing in your relationships and your legacy. Now let's address the elephant in the room, because I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, I'm too old, I'm too stiff, I've got arthritis, bad knees, a bad back. This might work for someone else, but it won't work for me. And I'm telling you, with respect, that's the voice of fear, not the voice of truth. I've worked with people in their 70s, 80s, and 90s who started from a place of significant limitation and made remarkable progress. Not because they were special or genetically gifted, but because they showed up, followed the protocol, and gave their bodies the chance to adapt. Your body is more resilient than you think. Your nervous system is more adaptable than you've been told. And the narrative that aging means inevitable decline is a story we've been sold by a culture that profits from your dependence. Korean elders reject that story, and so can you. Will it be easy? No. Will there be days when you feel like you're not making progress? Absolutely. But will it be worth it when you can get up off the floor without help? When you can walk without fear of falling? When you wake up without pain? When your mind is sharp and your energy is high? You already know the answer. Here's the truth about aging that nobody wants to say out loud. The difference between people who stay healthy and independent into their 80s and 90s and people who decline rapidly after 60 isn't genetics, luck, or access to expensive health care. It's daily habits that either support the body's natural capacity for resilience or slowly chip away at it until there's nothing left. Korean elders have the habits that support resilience, and those habits are built on these 6 movements. You now have the same information they have. The question is, what will you do with it? Let's talk about something most people don't consider until it's too late, and that's the social aspect of movement. Korean elders don't practice these movements in isolation. They do them with friends, with family, in community spaces. They squat together in the market. They walk together in the park. They share meals sitting on the floor, which requires getting down and getting back up, and that shared movement creates accountability and joy. You're more likely to stick with a practice when other people are doing it with you, when it's woven into social connection rather than treated as a solitary chore. So here's my challenge to you. Find one other person, a friend, a spouse, a neighbor, and teach them these 6 movements. Practice together, even if it's just over a phone call where you both do the spinal wave in the morning or the neck rotation at night. Check in with each other. Celebrate progress. Troubleshoot problems. Korean elders have built-in community around movement because their culture supports it. You might have to create that community intentionally, but it's worth the effort, because the people who succeed long-term are the people who don't go it alone. Now, let's address the question of progression, because once you've mastered the basic version of these 6 movements, you're going to want to know what comes next. Korean elders don't stop at the basics. They layer in complexity, challenge, and variation over time, and that's how they maintain adaptation and avoid plateaus. Here's how to progress each movement once the foundation is solid. For the spinal wave, once you can do 10 smooth reps sitting on the edge of the bed without any discomfort, start doing it standing. Stand with your feet hip-width apart and your knees slightly bent. Place your hands on your thighs if you need support and perform the same wave pattern through your spine. This adds a balance and proprioceptive component that makes the movement more challenging. From there, you can progress to doing it with your arms overhead, which increases the range of motion through the thoracic spine and engages the shoulders and lats. For the squat, once you can hold a full squat with your heels down for 60 seconds without support, start adding movement in the bottom position. Shift your weight from side to side. Rotate your torso gently left and right. Reach your arms forward and overhead. These variations turn the static hold into a dynamic exploration of your hip, ankle, and spinal mobility. Korean elders do this naturally when they're working in the garden or sorting vegetables. They don't just sit in the squat. They move in it, and that constant variation is what keeps the joints healthy and the movement pattern adaptable. For ankle pumping, once 2 minutes feels easy, add resistance. Loop a resistance band around the ball of your foot and hold the ends in your hands. Now, when you plantar flex, you're working against resistance, which strengthens the calf muscles even more. You can also progress to single-leg calf raises, which combine ankle mobility with balance and strength. Stand on one leg on the edge of a step with your heel hanging off. Lower your heel down below the level of the step, then press up onto the ball of your foot as high as you can go. Do 10 reps per leg, slow and controlled. This is a staple in Korean elder movement practices, often done on the edge of a curb or a low wall. For grip strength, once the basic protocol feels manageable, start training grip endurance. Instead of squeezing for 5 seconds, squeeze for 30 seconds. Instead of carrying weight for 30 seconds, carry it for 2 minutes. You can also add finger-specific training. Use a rubber band looped around your fingers and thumb, then spread your fingers apart against the resistance. This strengthens the extensors, which are often neglected, and helps prevent imbalances that can lead to tendinitis or carpal tunnel symptoms. For single-leg standing, once you can hold 60 seconds with your eyes closed on each leg, start adding head movements. Stand on one leg with your eyes open and slowly turn your head left and right. This challenges your vestibular system in a whole new way, because now your visual field is moving while you're trying to maintain balance. From there, progress to standing on an unstable surface like a foam pad or a folded towel. This forces your ankle and foot muscles to work harder to stabilize, and it trains your proprioceptive system at a much higher level. Korean elders do this naturally when they walk on uneven ground, cobblestones, or dirt paths. They're constantly training balance without ever stepping into a gym. For the neck rotation, once the basic protocol feels smooth and comfortable, add gentle resistance. Place your hand on the side of your head as you rotate and press lightly against your hand as you turn. This engages the neck muscles more actively and builds strength alongside mobility. You can also progress to doing the movement standing instead of sitting, which adds a balance component, or doing it with your eyes closed, which increases the proprioceptive demand. The key to progression is patience and consistency. Don't rush to make things harder just because you can. Korean elders progress slowly, sometimes taking months or years to add complexity, because they understand that the goal isn't to impress anyone. The goal is to maintain and improve function for the rest of their lives. Fast progression leads to injury and burnout. Slow progression leads to mastery and longevity. Choose the latter. Now, let's talk about what happens when you miss a day, because life is unpredictable, and there will be days when you don't do these movements. Maybe you're traveling, maybe you're sick, maybe you just forget. Korean elders have an advantage here, because these movements are so integrated into their daily routines that missing them would require actively changing their behavior. But for you, especially in the beginning, missing a day is easy, and it's important to have a plan for getting back on track. Here's the rule. Never miss 2 days in a row. One missed day is a blip. 2 missed days is the beginning of a pattern. 3 missed days, and you're no longer practicing a habit, you're trying to restart one. And restarting is 10 times harder than maintaining. If you miss a day, don't beat yourself up. Don't spiral into guilt or shame. Just do the movements the next day, even if it's a shortened version. Do 5 spinal waves instead of 10. Do 1 squat instead of 3. Do 30 seconds of single leg standing instead of 60. Something is always better than nothing, and the act of showing up, even in a reduced capacity, reinforces the habit loop in your brain. Korean elders don't have perfect days every day. They have days when they're tired, when their bodies hurt, when life gets in the way. But they show up anyway, because they've learned over decades that consistency, not perfection, is what creates lasting change. You're building a relationship with your body, and like any relationship, it requires daily attention. Some days you'll give a lot, some days you'll give a little. But if you keep showing up, the relationship deepens, and the benefits compound over time. Let's address pain, because this is where a lot of people get stuck. They start these movements, they feel some discomfort, and they interpret that discomfort as a signal that they're doing harm. In most cases, that's not true. There's a difference between discomfort and pain, between sensation and injury, and learning to tell the difference is one of the most important skills you can develop. Discomfort is the feeling of muscles working, joints moving through range they're not used to, or tissues stretching in ways they haven't stretched in years. It's a sensation of effort, and it often comes with a feeling of release or relief afterward. Discomfort is normal, expected, and even desirable, because it's a sign that you're challenging your body to adapt. Pain, on the other hand, is sharp, stabbing, burning, or electric. It makes you want to stop immediately. It often radiates into other areas. It gets worse the more you do the movement, and it doesn't feel better afterward. Pain is a signal that something is wrong, and it requires attention. Korean elders are masters at distinguishing between the two, because they've been listening to their bodies for decades. They know when to push through and when to back off. You can develop the same skill, but it takes practice and honest self-assessment. If you're feeling discomfort during the spinal wave, that's probably your back waking up after years of stiffness. If you're feeling sharp pain that shoots down your leg, that's a nerve issue, and you need to stop and get it checked out. If you're feeling muscle fatigue in your calves during ankle pumping, that's normal. If you're feeling a tearing sensation in your Achilles tendon, that's an injury waiting to happen, and you need to reduce the intensity immediately. Here's the guideline. If the sensation you're feeling is symmetrical, meaning it's the same on both sides of your body, it's usually discomfort. If it's asymmetrical, meaning it's only on one side or significantly worse on one side, that's more likely to be pain or dysfunction. If the sensation improves as you warm up or as you do more repetitions, it's usually discomfort. If it gets worse, it's usually pain. And if you're ever in doubt, err on the side of caution. Back off, reduce the range of motion, reduce the intensity, and if it doesn't improve, consult a professional. Korean elders also understand that pain is information, not something to fear or suppress. If a movement hurts, they modify it. They don't push through, and they don't give up. They find a variation that works for their body in that moment, and they trust that over time, as their body adapts, they'll be able to do more. This is the opposite of the Western no pain, no gain mentality, which has injured more people over 60 than it's ever helped. Your body is not your enemy. Pain is not weakness. Pain is communication, and your job is to listen and respond intelligently. Now, let's talk about breathing, because this is the thread that ties all 6 movements together. And it's something Korean elders do intuitively, but Westerners often miss. Every movement should be coordinated with your breath, and the breath should always be nasal, deep, and diaphragmatic. When you breathe through your nose, you filter and humidify the air, you engage the diaphragm more effectively, and you activate the parasympathetic nervous system. When you breathe through your mouth, you bypass all of those benefits and create a state of low-level stress in your body. Here's the breathing pattern for each movement. During the spinal wave, inhale as you extend and exhale as you flex. During the squat, inhale as you lower and exhale as you rise. During ankle pumping, inhale as you dorsiflex and exhale as you plantar flex. During grip work, inhale before you squeeze and exhale as you release. During single leg standing, breathe slowly and deeply, in for 4 counts and out for 6 counts, to calm the nervous system and enhance balance. During neck rotation, inhale as you turn and exhale as you return to center. This isn't arbitrary. Breathing patterns influence muscle activation, joint stability, and neurological state. When you inhale, your sympathetic nervous system activates slightly, which prepares your body for effort. When you exhale, your parasympathetic nervous system activates, which allows for relaxation and deeper range of motion. Korean elders synchronize breath and movement without thinking about it, because it's been taught from childhood, but you can learn it at any age. It just takes attention and practice. Here's the test. Do 10 spinal waves without paying attention to your breath. Then do 10 spinal waves with deliberate breath coordination. You'll feel the difference immediately. The movement will be smoother, the range will be greater, and the sensation afterward will be more relaxed. Breath is the bridge between your conscious mind and your automatic body, and when you use it intentionally, you access a level of control and adaptation that most people never experience. Let's talk about nutrition for a moment. Because while these 6 movements are the foundation, they work best when your body has the fuel it needs to adapt and recover. Korean elders don't separate movement from nutrition. They see them as 2 sides of the same coin, and their diet supports their movement practice in very specific ways. First, they prioritize protein, especially in the morning. Muscle protein synthesis, the process by which your body builds and repairs muscle tissue, is most responsive in the hours after you wake up, and it requires adequate protein intake to function optimally. Korean elders often start the day with fish, eggs, or fermented soy, all high-quality protein sources that provide the amino acids needed for tissue repair. If you're doing these 6 movements consistently but you're only eating toast and coffee for breakfast, you're not giving your body what it needs to adapt. Second, they eat anti-inflammatory foods that support joint health. Fermented vegetables like kimchi, omega-3-rich fish like mackerel and sardines, seaweed and ginger are staples in the Korean diet, and all of them have compounds that reduce systemic inflammation and protect cartilage, tendons, and ligaments. Chronic inflammation is one of the primary drivers of joint pain and loss of mobility after 60. And while movement helps reduce inflammation, nutrition amplifies the effect. Third, they stay hydrated, and not just with water. Bone broth, seaweed soup, and herbal teas provide hydration along with minerals like calcium, magnesium, and potassium that are essential for muscle contraction, nerve signaling, and bone health. Dehydration is incredibly common in older adults, often because thirst signals diminish with age, and the consequences include muscle cramps, dizziness, fatigue, and impaired recovery from exercise. I'm not telling you to adopt a Korean diet entirely, but I am telling you to look at your nutrition through the lens of supporting your movement practice. Are you eating enough protein to rebuild tissue? Are you eating anti-inflammatory foods to protect your joints? Are you hydrating adequately to support circulation and recovery? If the answer to any of those questions is no, that's a leverage point, and small changes in your diet can produce outsized improvements in how your body responds to these movements. Now, let's talk about sleep, because this is where recovery happens, and recovery is just as important as the movements themselves. Korean elders prioritize sleep in a way that Western culture does not. They go to bed early. They keep their sleeping environment cool and dark, and they use the rhythmic neck rotation I taught you earlier to transition into deep, restorative sleep. Here's what happens during sleep that matters for your movement practice. Your body releases growth hormone, which stimulates tissue repair and muscle growth. Your brain consolidates motor learning, which means the movements you practice during the day get encoded into long-term memory and become more automatic. Your immune system clears out damaged cells and inflammatory markers. Your nervous system resets and recalibrates. All of this happens primarily during deep sleep, and if you're not getting enough deep sleep, you're not recovering fully, which means you're not adapting to the training stimulus. Most people over 60 struggle with sleep, and the reasons are varied: pain, stress, medications, sleep apnea, poor sleep hygiene. But one of the most overlooked factors is lack of movement during the day. Your body needs physical stress to create the drive for deep sleep. If you're sedentary all day, your body has no reason to prioritize recovery, and your sleep suffers. The 6 movements I've taught you provide enough physical stress to signal to your body that recovery is needed, especially when combined with daily walking or other low-intensity activity. Here's the protocol for optimizing sleep to support your movement practice. First, do the rhythmic neck rotation every night before bed, as I described earlier. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system and signals to your body that it's time to wind down. Second, keep your bedroom cool, ideally between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Your core body temperature needs to drop to initiate deep sleep, and a warm room prevents that from happening. Third, eliminate light. Use blackout curtains or an eye mask. Even small amounts of light can disrupt melatonin production and fragment your sleep. Fourth, avoid screens for at least an hour before bed. The blue light from phones, tablets, and TVs suppresses melatonin and keeps your brain in a state of alertness. And here's the detail that ties it all together. Go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, even on weekends. Your circadian rhythm, the internal clock that regulates sleep, thrives on consistency. Korean elders don't have wildly variable sleep schedules. They go to bed when the sun sets, and they wake up when the sun rises, and that regularity creates a depth and quality of sleep that most Westerners never experience. You might not be able to follow the sun exactly, but you can create a consistent schedule that works for your life, and your sleep will improve dramatically as a result. Let me give you a 30-day roadmap, because I know that having a clear plan makes it easier to commit and follow through. This isn't a rigid prescription. It's a framework you can adapt to your own needs, abilities, and schedule. The goal is to build the habit over 30 days so that by the end of the month, these 6 movements are woven into your daily routine and you can't imagine not doing them. Week 1. Focus on the spinal wave and ankle pumping. These are the 2 easiest movements to integrate, and they provide immediate feedback in terms of reduced stiffness and better energy. Do the spinal wave every morning as soon as you wake up, 10 reps, 90 seconds. Do ankle pumping at least 3 times during the day, 2 minutes each time. That's it. Don't worry about the other movements yet. Just build consistency with these 2. Week 2. Add the neck rotation. Now you're doing the spinal wave in the morning, ankle pumping throughout the day, and the neck rotation before bed. You're bookending your day with movement, and you're starting to notice changes in how your body feels when you wake up and how easily you fall asleep at night. Week 3. Add the squat and the single leg standing. This is where things get more challenging, because these 2 movements require more focus and effort. Do your squat progression 3 times at some point during the day, mid-morning or early afternoon works well. Do your single leg standing while you brush your teeth twice a day. You're now doing all 5 of the first movements, and your body is starting to adapt in noticeable ways. Week 4. Add the grip work. 3 times this week, spend 5 to 10 minutes working on crushing grip, pinch grip, and support grip. By the end of week 4, you've integrated all 6 movements, and you have a routine that covers mobility, strength, circulation, balance, and neurological health. From here, it's just about maintaining consistency and gradually progressing each movement as your ability improves. Here's the reality check. 30 days is not enough to master these movements, but it's enough to build the habit, and the habit is what carries you forward for the next 30 years. Korean elders have been doing these movements for decades, and they'll keep doing them until they die, because they understand that maintenance is a lifelong practice. You're not training for an event. You're training for the rest of your life. Now, let's address the question that's probably on your mind. What if you do all of this and you don't see results? What if you're consistent for 30 days or 60 days or 90 days and you don't feel stronger, more mobile, or more energetic? First, I'd ask you to define results, because the benefits of these movements are often subtle and cumulative. You might not notice that you're moving better until you realize you haven't had back pain in 2 weeks. You might not notice that your balance has improved until you catch yourself on uneven ground without thinking about it. Korean elders don't track progress with spreadsheets or fitness apps. They track it by how they feel and what they can do, and that's a more honest and meaningful measure than any number on a chart. Second, I'd ask you to check your execution. Are you doing the movements correctly, or are you just going through the motions? Are you breathing intentionally, or are you holding your breath? Are you progressing gradually, or are you trying to do too much too soon? Small errors in technique can dramatically reduce the effectiveness of a movement, and without a coach or a mirror, it's easy to develop bad habits. If possible, record yourself doing each movement and compare it to the descriptions I've given. If something looks off, adjust. Third, I'd ask you to look at the rest of your life. Are you sleeping enough? Are you eating enough protein? Are you managing stress? Are you taking medications that might be interfering with muscle adaptation or balance? Movement is powerful, but it's not magic. If the other pillars of health are broken, movement alone won't fix everything. Korean elders have the advantage of a lifestyle that supports movement, and you need to create that same support structure in your own life. And fourth, I'd tell you to be patient. Adaptation takes time, especially after 60. Your tissues don't remodel as quickly as they did when you were 30. Your nervous system doesn't learn new patterns as fast. But it does learn, and it does adapt, as long as you keep showing up. Korean elders have the luxury of a lifetime of practice. You might be starting from scratch, and that means your timeline will be longer. 6 months is a more realistic time frame for seeing significant changes than 30 days, and a year is even better. Trust the process, stay consistent, and let your body do what it's designed to do. Let me leave you with one final thought. And this is the mindset that separates people who succeed long-term from people who give up after a few weeks. Stop thinking of these 6 movements as a chore you have to do, and start thinking of them as a gift you get to give yourself. Korean elders don't resent their movement practice. They're grateful for it, because they've seen what happens to people who don't move. They've watched friends and family members decline, lose independence, and spend their final years in pain and dependence, and they've made a conscious choice to take a different path. You have that same choice right now. You can accept the narrative that aging means inevitable decline, or you can reject it and prove it wrong. You can spend the next 10 or 20 or 30 years staying strong, mobile, and capable, or you can spend them watching your body fall apart while you sit on the sidelines. Korean elders chose the former, and they're inviting you to join them. These 6 movements are the price of admission, and it's the best deal you'll ever get. So here's my final question for you, and I want you to answer it honestly in the comments. Which of these 6 movements will you start with today, and why did you choose that one? Maybe it's the spinal wave because your back is stiff every morning. Maybe it's the squat because you can't get down on the floor with your grandkids. Maybe it's a single leg standing because you're terrified of falling. Whatever it is, tell me. Share your story because your story matters, and when you share it, you're not just helping yourself, you're helping everyone else who's reading this and wondering if they can do it too. Let's build a community around these practices, the way Korean elders have for generations, and let's prove that healthy aging isn't a privilege for the lucky few. It's a choice available to everyone willing to show up and do the work.